What's going on, you guys? TBR here, back yet again with another King of Fighters All-Star video, and in today's video we are going to be covering a topic that I have admittedly been meaning to talk about all week long, but unfortunately Netmarble has had other plans for me this week. They also apparently don't want me to get this video out to you guys because, yeah, the PC client, as you guys will see in this video, unfortunately, has not been wanting to cooperate with me all morning long. So yeah, that's been fun. But in today's video, we are going to be talking about none other than Nostalgia Chun-Li. Now, I know Nostalgia Chun-Li isn't necessarily going to be anybody's favorite character from this collaboration. She is by no means the strongest character in this collaboration. However, what I have discovered with this character is she is actually very strong for one particular place right now, and that's by no means meaning that this is going to be the only place she's good in. But what I want to focus on today is going to be where I think she is going to be the most useful, and that is going to be in Inferno difficulty against Omega Rugal, and also against Nightmare Geese, but I don't have footage of that yet, so that'll be next week. But in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at Nostalgia Chun-Li against Omega Rugal in Inferno difficulty. I'm also going to be showing you guys a little bit of DPS comparisons between the stones, whether they be defensive stones or attack stones. Of course, we've already seen plenty of data on both of these things, but if you guys want even more, that'll be in this video as well. So we're going to be talking all things Nostalgia Chun-Li today. While she isn't necessarily going to end up being the strongest character by any stretch of the imagination in this collaboration or in prior collaborations, she is still going to have some pretty important and useful things that she can do, so I want to go ahead and highlight those today. But before we go ahead and get into all of that and more, make sure if you guys haven't already done so, you smash that like button and subscribe, and let's go ahead and get into today's video. Cue that intro. Alright, you guys, so in today's video we're going to be talking about Nostalgia Chun-Li, and we're not going to be delving into all the things that this character is good and bad at, but there are a couple of things I want to highlight with this character as it pertains particularly to beginner and intermediate players, because I feel like this is a character that does bring a lot of value to accounts, especially considering the fact that she can be built on a budget using dimensional invitations. So in today's video, I want to go ahead and give you guys some observations with this character, as well as a little bit of information that I've been able to derive using her, so let's go ahead and hop into it. So first and foremost, Nostalgia Chun-Li is going to be a green defensive type character, which is very important for high levels of Reviving Hell's Dungeon, and then her leadership skill isn't anything that's really worth mentioning, as you're probably never going to be using it. Now, when it comes to Nostalgia Chun-Li, the first big thing you're going to want to know about this character is that this character is not going to be able to hit as hard as a lot of the top-tier Street Fighter V characters. This is something that is inherent whenever we have these free characters like this that are going to be able to be built with dimensional invitations, so keep that in mind. She's not an SS, she's by no means BS, she's not a limited banner character, quote-unquote, as we've come to know them using any of those tags, so therefore she isn't necessarily going to hit as hard, and she isn't going to have as long of an awakening rotation, but she does have a lot of really cool things that she can do. Now, first and foremost, what we are going to notice on the kit is she is going to have access to things such as Chill as well as Poison. This is going to be a character that is going to be able to deal out Poison on her S1, and then on her S3 she's also going to have Poison. So this is very, very nice, considering the fact that she does have 10-second long durations on both. So this is something to where she's going to be able to apply these dots, and she's going to be able to stick those for a long time, especially considering the fact that she does not have any explosion. So that is something I do want to point out right off the bat. Other things about this kit that are worth noting are going to be the fact that she does not possess a 30% power charge rate increase, but instead a 20% power charge rate increase on her cores. And then when we get to her exclusive cores, she does have a couple of things that stick out. She's going to be able to decrease her active skill cooldowns by 0.2 seconds upon attacking a poison target, so you always like to see that. And then she's going to be able to increase her active skill damage to chilled targets by 100%. So both of these are very important on the Nostalgia core, because typically speaking, like I had mentioned, you're not going to have any explosion on this kit, so that means that this increase to your active skill damage is almost always going to be active, and then being able to decrease your active skill cooldowns by 0.2 seconds when attacking a target that is going to be poisoned is also almost always going to be active, because you are always going to have those 10-second long durations on both of those dots respectively, and this character is not going to have dot explosion. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword considering she doesn't have the explosion. That 5.5 times explosion has pretty much become meta at this point on most characters. However, she does have some things in her kit that are going to be able to make up for that, so it is worth noting. Other things that are going to be in here, she's going to be able to decrease her damage received by 60% when attacked by a target that has 100% HP. This is kind of whatever, honestly. This is more so probably going to be important for things such as PvP, but at the same time, it does have kind of niche, isolated uses in PvE, but not anything that is worth noting. One thing that is worth noting about her, though, going back to the fact that this character is not going to be able to output as much damage as other Street Fighter V characters, the Street Fighter V core is going to be of the utmost importance to her. So the Street Fighter V core, for those of you who do not remember, the part that I'm mentioning here is going to be the increases attack by 40% if HP is 50% or more. She needs this buff in order to be able to do out a lot of that damage that you want from her. And whenever she goes below 50% health, this is definitely going to be a noticeable downgrade for her, considering she already isn't hitting as hard as other characters. However, it is going to be something that we will talk about. So that is pretty much going to be some of the stuff in the cores there. Other things that are going on with this character that are going to be worth noting, at least in my opinion, is that Nostalgia Chun-Li and both Chun-Lis in general have really good shield shred in general in things such as Guild Raid. In today's video, we're going to be focusing on Inferno difficulty against Omega Rugal, because this character can go in and solo that mode for you. And as a free-to-play player out there, or a budget player, or a new player, or intermediate player, this is very important because Inferno difficulty in Guild Raid is going to be one of the most important, rewarding modes in the game right now, because you want to be able to have the chance at that SS or that BS memory every day. So this is something that is very important. So she's going to be able to shred shield very, very well with both finishers, particularly the 3PG finisher for the card finisher. Very, very important. The core finisher does shred shield decently, but the bread and butter here is going to be the 3PG card finisher. Now, another thing I want to go ahead and mention here also with this character is she does have quite a bit of defense to attack conversion. So something you'll notice with this character is if we go over here to the S1, we're going to have an increase to our attack by 70% of defense for 7 seconds when using a skill. So that is going to be number one. And then on the S2, we have an increase to attack by 70% of defense for 7 seconds when using a skill as well. So she does have quite a bit of defense to attack conversion. However, there isn't much of a debate on these stones. I'm sure you guys have already seen, some of my peers have already done the breakdowns on this or have compared these. I will have some footage in here as well. However, I'll have a few caveats to that, but a lot of people are going to, of course, ask, should you use defense or attack stones on your Nostalgia Chun-Li? And I'm sure if you've seen any of those videos, then you'll probably already know that attack stones are going to be the way to go for damage. However, there's a caveat. So when it comes to the attack stones for the Street Fighter V characters on Nostalgia Chun-Li, they aren't necessarily going to be making as big of a difference as you would notice on a lot of characters. In fact, what I would say is actually, if you are having issues with survivability, then defensive stones are actually going to be worth the use. The reason for that is because they're going to offer more sustain. You guys are going to see I do have a full set of defensive stones fully built for my Nostalgia Chun-Li that I have gone ahead and tested already. So if we take a look here, you guys are going to see that I do have defensive stones here that I've built up, and I have tested thoroughly on her versus the attack stones. And what you're going to notice is the difference in damage. It's almost always going to be the attack stones that are going to do better damage overall. However, something that is worth noting is the fact that you do get a lot more sustain, and you're not trading off that much damage if you use defensive stones versus attack stones. So basically, if you need more tankiness and things such as Inferno, and you want to trade off just a little bit of damage, then you could go ahead and do that and use the defensive stones and get a lot more sustain. However, if you just want as much damage as humanly possible, especially considering the fact that this Chun-Li does not hit as hard as we've established, then you could go ahead and just use the attack stones. And like I said, I'll have some comparisons in this video. You guys will be able to see some of that footage. I was very, very thorough and delicate with how I did that as far as trying to mirror those as much as possible to try and make sure that those things were going to be as comparable as possible. However, the big caveat there is always going to be things such as transcendental effects on cards that can throw things off. But it's pretty easy to tell as far as the difference in the stones, what's going on there. So I just wanted to go ahead and make sure I denoted that for you guys because I think it's a very important distinction to make. So while the attack stones are definitely going to be the best overall for DPS, as well as CP, which we can go ahead and show you guys real quick. So I do have currently the attack stones on here. So what happens if I take those off is you guys are going to notice that there is a decent amount of drop off in her CP for each one. So that is worth noting. So kind of keep that in mind if you're somebody that's trying to get as much CP for her as well. Always remember that CP doesn't automatically result in more damage. That is a mistake a lot of people make. You could have a character that has 250,000 CP, but if the cards and the stones and what have you are on that character aren't going to be necessarily the most synergistic with the character, then it isn't going to be doing as much damage as it could with, you know, maybe 80,000 less CP and actual cards and stones that do work with them. So there's a trade-off there. There's always going to be a difference there, and that's always going to be worth noting. But I wanted to make sure that you guys knew kind of the differences there, especially when you get into the footage, because it is a pretty fine line in damage. It's definitely a noticeable difference, but it's not a huge difference. It's not, you know, 10, 20, 30 million damage or whatever the case may be in things like Spider Robot. So just wanted to point that out. Other things in here, as you guys can see, I have nowhere near perfect stones for her. This stone here I actually just threw on her just so she had some extra sustain here. You don't need this stone. I just put it on there because I had it laying around. This one's just good for my defensive type fighters and HP. It's really not a good stone for her. It's trash. So you can kind of disregard that. You don't need that at all. And then I would say that, you know, as far as anything here, she doesn't have explosion. So if you have chill, if you have poison, what have you, I'd probably say go with poison boost on these here if you could, as far as the star and the moon stones. But otherwise, go with the Street Fighter stones for her circle, her square, and her hexagon slots, because she doesn't have explosion. So you don't need to worry about using R stones that are going to have the proper dot. That's really not necessary. So with that being said, as far as what you guys are going to see in this video, as far as the build is concerned, you guys are going to be seeing me using this character in action, using not this set. I have this set on here for a reason I'll talk about. But I am going to be using, in the footage that you guys are about to see, I am going to be using the idle set. So the idle set in the footage you'll see in Inferno difficulty is going to be what I use on my Nostalgia Chun-Li. So that is going to be what I use there. I use these two option cards along with the idle set in the footage you're about to see. But I have the Shizuru set on her because in my testing, which the testing I did actually came after I did some of these runs, but the testing that I did, the Shizuru set actually ended up proving to be one of the best sets overall for her. So you'll actually get a lot better performance with some of these other card sets potentially. The big caveat for me, and the reason why I'm hesitant to just sit here and tell you guys and rank these kind of sets in order, is because transcendental effects make a huge difference, right? We've talked about this before, especially considering mine has almost perfect transcendental effects for her typing here with this set. So to me, it's inconclusive. Idle set is extremely powerful and a free option for her. So in my opinion, if you wanted to just go ahead and use an idle set, you could go ahead and do this and you'll be in fine shape in my opinion. Also consider the fact that I do have some, but not all of these that are going to be able to benefit her as well that I used. So, you know, I do have, I think, one effect on here that makes a difference for her, but that's about it. So these things, actually, I have none. So the idle set in general, for me, this is another reason why it's inconclusive for me, is because the transcendental effects do make a huge difference. So for me, that is something that is worth noting when it comes to ranking the card sets. I'm not going to sit here and do that because I don't feel like it would be right, because I do know that that makes a difference and I don't want to say that. So outside of that, you guys, I would say that if you want to use an idle set, if you want to use a Shizuru set, if you want to use the 10,000 blows set, all of these sets are extremely strong on her. By no means is that going to be a comprehensive list of sets that you could use with her, but I would say that those are some of the best ones. Definitely things that I would look at, and it gives you guys a variety of options as far as premium sets as well as budget sets. So in general, when it comes to a build, you can play around with it, see what works for you, see what you have to work with. Some people might not have this set. Idle set's readily available and one of the best sets possible for her. I just use these option cards on her because I just think that these tend to be the best ones for her for me right now. I've tested several different option cards with her, and to be honest with you guys, the one that is really worth noting here is of course going to be, if I can find it, I need to be over here. The option card that is worth noting here is going to be this one here. So of course this one's going to be the nostalgia, or the Chun-Li in general option card for this collaboration. With this card, I would say that you don't necessarily have to have it. And the reason for that is because this character doesn't have that explosion, so it isn't necessarily the most important thing in the game for her. It's not as important for her as a character that's going to have explosion that could carry a card like this in this collaboration, kind of like an Akuma and other characters that we've already covered here. So you can go ahead and play around with the option card setup. In general, I always really like the Gintama option if you got it, and this guy here is always very strong as well. But in general, it comes down to what you got. You know, so that is pretty much what I'm feeling there. If you guys are wondering about this guy here, as far as which one of these skills you would want just ideally for her, I would say the active skill one would probably be the best one for her here, but it really doesn't matter. It doesn't make a huge difference. So that is pretty much going to be the kit and kind of what I wanted to talk about here. Nostalgia Chun-Li is not a perfect character. She's not going to be a uber tier character. She's not going to be one of those characters that is going to be a hard carry for your account. However, this character does have very isolated but important use cases. She's going to be a character that can solo Inferno in both guild raid modes, so both against Omega Rugal, as you guys are going to see today, and then also against Nightmare Geese. So that is very important. You know, having the mixed dot coverage of chill and poison is something else that is also going to be very strong for her. And in general, while this isn't necessarily going to be the most OP broken character in the game, I feel like for those of you out there that need help, go ahead and use this character. Use a healing striker if you need to. She has a really good relationship with a character such as Nakaruru for heals. If you need Nakaruru to help you with the heal, you could do that, and you'll also get a little bit of an added benefit from her as well. So it's very nice that she has the link ability to get a heal from Nakaruru plus that super armor here. So that's really, really cool if you need the sustain. Otherwise, use defensive stones, and you could probably get by with using a different striker against Inferno difficulty at A5 and not have as much of an issue, and therefore it won't be much of a problem. You'll just be trading off a little bit of damage, so not that big of a deal there. So in general, a lot of what this character is going to be able to do is going to be things that are very important things, but they're very isolated. So that is what I wanted to talk about with Nostalgia Chun-Li. I'll let you guys enjoy the footage. I'll go ahead and show you my fame here just real quick. But in general, I'm very happy with this character's use cases as far as why. And we're back. Sorry about that, guys. Apparently the PC client has decided that this morning it's not going to connect to the server anymore. So anyway, I'll just go ahead and do an overlay with my fame so that way you guys can take a look at it. But that's pretty much going to do it for what I wanted to talk about when it comes to Nostalgia Chun-Li. I'll let you guys enjoy the footage of the Inferno run, as well as some of my findings just testing her out against the Spider Robot and testing the defense stones versus the attack stones, as well as some of these other card sets. Again, keep in mind with the card sets, because of my transcendental effects and so on, I wouldn't consider those gospel, but when it comes to the difference in DPS versus the stones, of course we can pretty much gather what we need from there. So that is going to do it for this video, you guys. I hope you found it informative. If you did, smash that like button and subscribe, and as always, I will see you guys in the next video. You guys take care. Peace.